Bronwyn Bishop's political career is in the dust. She's been dumped by the Liberal Party as candidate for the Sydney seat of Mackellar, a position that she has held for 22 years.
Yeah, her career certainly does look to be over politically, but the former Speaker will get a pension worth $200,000 and free flights around Australia for life, not chopper flights, I'm guessing, though. And joining us to discuss this, the Sunday jury, we have Phil Baker from the Australian Financial Review today and journalist Shelly Horton. A very good morning to you both. Shelly, first to you. She's lost her seat, but she's not going to do too badly by the sound of it.
$200,000 a year, and that is tax-free, and up to 10 flights a year, business class. Come on. I mean, I think that is too much. I think that she's been compensated enough by being in politics and being in the public eye. She can now go and be on a board. There are so many other ways that she'll be earning money. It's not like she's now unemployable. She actually can make a lot of money in the corporate area.
Well, we had Sam Maiden on the show earlier, and she just sort of mentioned that she could earn more in retirement than she would during her career.
Pete,
you know,
is that good work if you can get it?
well, sure. Yeah,
absolutely. The other point to make is that Shelley said it's tax-free. The rest of us, what we're told by sort of our financial planners is that...
And by politicians.
And by politicians, when you're 65, if you've got a lump sum of $650,000, that's good enough for you. That should last you the rest of your life. That's $650,000 for 20 or 30 years. She's getting $200,000 a year.
It's out of touch, isn't it? It's out of touch.
Well, it's going to understandably irk a lot of people.
Yeah, and look, the one thing I would say is she's been in the same job for 22 years. I've had about 22 jobs, you know, so there's kind of a long service sort of commitment there, but I just think that it's a little bit too much of a sweetener when these politicians aren't exactly on the poverty line when they're in the gig.
OK, well, let's go to the argument that she has been in public service for a long time, so she may well deserve something. But just moving aside from that, what's her legacy?
Gee, what's her legacy?
Yeah.
Well, helicopters for a start. Look, she was big on the sort of national loo, she wanted to put national loos everywhere around the country. Unfortunately, with aged healthcare, when she was the minister there was the scandal with the kerosene in the baths in the sort of nursing home. But I suppose her sort of real legacy will be her time as the Speaker, where she sort of called everybody up, but they were mainly Labor politicians on the other side, and also her relationship with Tony Abbott, which I think is the really interesting thing. What's going to happen now? Because she's very upset about this. Will she leak like a sieve? Are we about to get the dirt on Tony Abbott?
A few people will be very worried about that, I think.
All right, let's go on to our mate Clive. Well, not really, but anyway. Clive Palmer says he won't become the next Christopher Skase amid fears the billionaire could flee Australia, lumping taxpayers with a $74 million debt. Phil, all eyes are on Palmer following the collapse. The understandable frustration and annoyance of people up in Queensland following the collapse of Queensland Nickel. Is he going to stay put? Is he going to stay quiet?
Look, there's talk that he's going to sort of do a bit of a runner.
Or a flight risk.
I don't think so, because he quite clearly thinks he's done nothing wrong. And you often see this in business. You've seen it with the multinationals, with Google and Apple, that don't pay any tax here. They turn around and they say, we've done nothing wrong. We're acting within the sort of what the law says. You sort of say, like, really, you've pushed the envelope so far down the desk. Yes, OK, technically you might be sort of within the rules of the law, but gee, it doesn't pass the pub test, and everyone gets really upset because we're all paying our tax, and these guys are just bending the rules. So Shelley thinks he will do a bit of a runner.
Yeah, man.
I don't think he will.
I think everyone's just sick of hearing that line from Clive Palmer. I think he's really on the nose, but you've got a bit of insight.
Yeah, well, look, my mum and dad live in Coolum, so, like, I've been there. I've been to the Coolum golf course and seen those weird dinosaurs. Like, the guy is loopy. So I don't think that... I think the only reason he will stay in Australia is ego, because he likes to be the centre of attention. But once it comes down, like, he's not going to get re-elected. 82% dissatisfaction with him. He's not going to get re-elected. So I can't see why he won't jump on a plane and just take off somewhere. He's got the funds, he's got the private planes, and he doesn't have empathy.
Yeah, that's right. Well, he did reach a level of popularity, you know, a few years ago when he came into the political system. So, what happened? Is he a victim of his arrogance, or is he delusional?
I think he's probably both, Pete. We probably should be lucky he's getting cut off at the knees now. Look what's happened in the US. Donald Trump's running for president. Sort of, he's got the ego that actually he probably sort of propel, or he had that ambition, Clive. But look, he has got all that hubris. But Shelley, I just wonder how much money these people have got. We've seen Nathan Tinkler. He was a billionaire. And he had all the toys, the planes and so forth. But at the end of the day, he had no money at all. He had no cash. So, Clive, once upon a time, was a billionaire, and he's siphoned off all this money, and it is a scandal. It will end up in the courts. But you just wonder if he's got how much cash flow he might have.
Cry me a river if he doesn't have, money in his wallet.
And I reckon a lot of workers in Townsville will be not feeling any sympathy for that.
No sympathy at all.
Okay, we saw more emotion in a Queensland politician last week than we did Clive Palmer.
I know, absolutely. And I actually love that. I love when we have our politicians who become a bit real and feel affected by what's happening to the people that they're representing, rather than politicians who are just promoting themselves and wanting to, gain status and power, which is what I think Clive Palmer's there for.
Does he bounce back from this?
Oh,
gee, it would be very tough, don't you think? I don't think he can.
Yeah.
But you
maybe
never know.
That's what because you know what? People who are willing to take those massive risks, he'll just take another massive risk somewhere and he could come back.
Big character to a big laughing stock, really, hasn't he? And a big disappointment to a lot of people.
I mean, we did talk about Bronwyn Bishop being a survivor. Maybe he will be too.
We'll see. All right, stay with us. Coming up next, how much are your child's extracurricular activities costing you? Find out after the break. Welcome back to Today. It has been revealed parents are forking out at least $100 a week on extracurricular activities for their children. And we are back with the Sunday Jury with Phil Baker from the Australian Financial Review and journalist Shelly Horton. Phil, you've got a couple of kids, $100 a week, it's a lot of money. Do you think that's about spot on?
Look, I think it can be even more expensive. I think the original report said $35 for each
child,
kid. I wonder whether the 3 should have been an 8 or whether there's a 0. Soccer registration, boots, dancing is like the gear, the ballet shoes. And we seem to spend a fortune on swimming lessons.
Yes.
I used to always think there was no incentive for the coach to teach my kids to swim. Then he'd stop getting paid.
Just keep on going.
Just keep on paying. So yes, look, they're doing well, but sort of just work on their backstroke next week, and that's another $50.
I think it's not affordable for a lot of Australian families, and I know for us, my mother-in-law pays for soccer for the toddler. His godparents pay for swimming lessons, and that's how he can do those things, because it really does add up. I mean, did you do a lot of these things?
Hell yeah! I reckon part of it though is my parents used it as after-school babysitting, so
training.
But we did the swimming, which I think is really important, and it wasn't about whether or not we could swim. It was then swimming squad and competing and all that sort of stuff. I did the ballet, no problem, love that. Have great moves on the dance floor. But my parents made me learn clarinet.
Yes.
There's no cool person in the world that plays clarinet. So I'm like, if it was piano. Yeah, right. I rest my case.
Yeah, exactly. Point
it has to be like piano or guitar. Then you're cool. But clarinet, and I had braces, so I had ulcers.
Oh, Shelley,
the worst.
You've come a long way.
I know, right?
I mean, as you
tortured.
As you were saying, Phil. I mean, we can talk about swimming lessons, but if you can get tennis lessons as well, and lessons can get up to about $100.
Well, before you even hit the court, Pete, you've got to sort of have all the gear.
Yeah, that's right.
A tennis racket, and so it gets very expensive. These days, we just don't seem to let our kids run down the end of the street and play with all the other kids in the street. Everything seems to be, no, 4 o'clock, you've got to be over there for sort of swimming.
Very structured.
It's very structured. Yeah, we don't let our kids roam the streets,
do we?
But
it's also a case of society. Is it safe to let them just run in the street? Not as much anymore.
I wonder also how much it is parents. You hear, oh, well, I've started swimming lessons for my 3-month-old. We didn't start that young, but as an example. And then you hear, oh, little Sally's in ballet lessons. You think, oh, should I put mine in? And suddenly, are you just keeping up with the Joneses?
It's these competitive parents rather than kids. I've got no problem with any sport that kids do because I think it's great for obesity, it's great for team sports so that you learn how to play as a team, all of that sort of thing. But once you're getting to the extracurricular stuff, I just don't think it's as necessary. And I think you need playtime.
Yeah,
just muck around.
Like a frisbee time?
We used to play frisbee brandy. Have you ever, how you play brandy with the tennis ball?
You've got to hit someone with a frisbee.
Oh, yeah. Welts.
My
I missed that one.
after school extracurricular activities were like Cabbage Patch dolls in the cubby house.
Sweet.
Yeah. What a great childhood. No, but I mean, they're great activities if you can afford them.
Yeah.
And kids do love them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They love, my little boy loves swimming, and I'm sure your kids are the same. They get into them.
Absolutely, and they form friendships, and I agree with Shelley too. Sport, I think, is fantastic
Yeah.
to be able to learn how to play in a team and put up with other kids that perhaps you don't really like that much, but you've all got to pull together. It's healthy, so I love it. But it's so structured, and you're right. I think there is a bit of an element. You see what other people are doing with their kids, you think, I better go and do
They're
that.
draining us, aren't they, Phil?
Yeah, they are. My Johnny's not going to miss out, Amelia.
draining us dry.
They are, that's right. But maybe we've got to fight back and say, no, my kids are doing nothing. They're going to stay at home and watch TV. on
No
the couch.
fun time for you.
All right, Shelley, Phil, thank you very much.
Thank
for
you,
joining us.
guys. More.